It's UofL Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
And welcome to UofL Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville. Thanks for joining us today. We've got an action-packed show today, and as I often say, we're hoping you will be a little bit smarter at the end of this 30 minutes than you are right now. You'll know lots about the University of Louisville, the great research, and the great students that we have at the University of Louisville. So coming up a little later in the show, they're called Hackathons, and Louisville Speed School of Engineering has a top team of students who participate in those hackathons. We'll tell you what they are, and you'll introduce you to a couple of those students coming up here in just a few minutes. We'll also chat with a U of L student-athlete who is so much more student than athlete. He's one of the most active students on campus and in the community. We'll talk with Jerry Ramirez about how he balances sports with what's really important in his life. But first, Dr. Daniel Conklin is a professor in cardiovascular medicine at U of L. He's also the director of the inhalation facility at U of L, and he's been doing research on e-cigarettes. Are they really safer than regular cigarettes? Welcome, Dr. Conklin. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, well, let's talk about e-cigarettes. First of all, what is an e-cigarette?
Yeah,
what is it?
The E stands for electronic, so these are battery-powered devices that can be recharged and deliver a set amount of or alternating voltage to a filament that heats up and vaporizes a liquid that contains nicotine, among many other flavors. There are all these flavors out there that people are talking about. Vivid vanilla, cherry crush. These sound appetizing, and that's part of their appeal. So,
an e-cigarette are those the metal things that we see people puffing on when in a place where they're not supposed to be smoking, perhaps indoors? Is that what that is? Is that what I'm looking at?
Yeah, and I'm showing you one here, and it looks essentially like a cigarette. It's about the size of a cigarette. This is the first generation, and aptly termed the cigalikes. So they're like a cigarette in terms of their shape, and in fact they have a little LED on the end that when puffed will light up. Not red necessarily, but could be green or blue, and that adds a little bit to their appeal. They're slick. Of course, they come apart, and this is the important component to e-cigarettes. One part contains the battery, and the other part contains the cartridge that will contain the fluid that has nicotine and the flavorants. Now, this first generation had to be recharged, but the cartridge could not be refilled. So when you were done, you just discarded that. Newer generations have refillable compartments, or tanks as they're called. And they also come with variable voltage battery. So you can change the voltage to generate more vapor, which makes it look more like a conventional
right. You see some
cigarette.
smoke.
That's right. You get a bigger vapor, and that's part of the draw. Is there look like a real cigarette?
Well, let's talk more about the background on these things here in a minute, but let's talk about your research and what you have found so far with these e-cigarettes. What have you found?
Yeah, well, our program is part of the American Heart Association Tobacco Regulation and Addiction Center, and this started 2 years ago and is funded by the Food and Drug Administration. Its purpose is to investigate the health effects, and specifically we're good at looking at sensitive markers of cardiovascular harm, and we do that through a two-pronged approach. We use animal studies where we control the exposures, so we know exactly how much nicotine they get, how much of the other components are present in the aerosols. And then we also do human studies where we control we measure the responses immediately after, say, use of a conventional cigarette or an electronic cigarette. So through those two approaches, we're able to assess whether or not there's acute or chronic injury to the cardiovascular system. And in short, one of our more surprising findings was a study we did in using mice, and these mice have been engineered to get atherosclerosis, a very similar process that affects most people as they age.
Is that lung disease? What is that? What's atherosclerosis?
Atherosclerosis is the buildup of what we call plaque inside your blood vessels.
Okay.
And this is the leading cause of heart disease and heart attacks in humans.
Okay, so you're doing this research on mice.
On mice that get a common disease found in humans, atherosclerosis, and we expose them to either a filtered air control or 2 levels of e-cigarette aerosol. And we do that long enough for these lesions to develop in the blood vessels, and that we can quantify those. And what we found was there appeared to be a dose-dependent increase in the amount of lesion in these mice exposed to electronic cigarette aerosol. And
but you were comparing it against just the filtered air. You weren't comparing it against traditional cigarettes.
Correct. We did do that with traditional cigarette as kind of what we call a positive control. We know cigarette smoke is harmful, including in these animal models. And so in our own system, under the very similar conditions, then we were also able to see an increase in atherosclerosis with the cigarette smoke. So, yeah, indeed.
All right, we're talking with Dr. Daniel Conklin, who is a professor in cardiovascular medicine at UofL and also the director of the inhalation facility at UofL. Bottom line is, at least in mice, e-cigarettes are not free of health harm. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that would be one.
Or can you not go that far?
Well, it would be one thing to connect the effect with what we would propose to happen in humans. And the difficulty there with making that leap, making that conclusion, is that animals are not humans. The disease process, however, is very similar in these animals as it occurs in humans. Where we would be cautious about automatically saying there
making
will be
that leap
to be the same one, but it would be a cautionary condition if there were no harm.
Buyer beware.
Yeah,
basically,
exactly.
for e-cigarettes.
No, that's a good way to put it.
Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah.
Is there any good research on the harms or lack of them, perhaps, that e-cigarettes cause versus regular cigarettes? E-cigarettes are a fairly new phenomenon. Has there been any decent research on that, or is that what we're talking about right here?
That's what we're talking about right here, and I would say there's a lack of the kind of research in humans that would convince you one way or the other. What has been argued is that these products, these devices, are different from conventional tobacco. They do not make smoke. The smoke is clearly associated with a number of outcomes in humans, including lung cancer, chronic pulmonary disease, and then, of course, what we study, 50% of the cause of cardiovascular disease is smoking, or at least in smokers, 50% of the time they're going to have an increased cardiovascular disease. So the difference between cigarette smoke, and these electronic cigarette aerosols is dramatic. They are different, but I think the problem with concluding that means they're somehow a safe thing to inhale is not supported by enough evidence. So I think there's a lack of evidence and a reason for doing this research right now.
Do you believe that e-cigarettes have become what teenagers and others are viewing as the safe alternative and are becoming perhaps a gateway to smoking real cigarettes?
No, you hit the nail on the head. The CDC has been tracking teen use of electronic cigarettes as they have been tracking conventional tobacco use for decades. And over the last 3 years, there's been an increase in the amount of use of electronic cigarettes in middle schoolers and high schoolers. And the disconcerting part of that trend is this past year's report indicated that more teens were getting their first exposure to tobacco through electronic cigarettes than they were through conventional cigarettes. So there's clearly a trend toward this is the new norm for exposure to nicotine and tobacco products. So there is a concern that that will become either lead to normative smoking rates of conventional tobacco or addiction long-term to electronic cigarette.
All right.
Yep.
All right, Dr. Daniel Conklin, you're going to continue the research on this, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say about e-cigarettes. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Hackathons. Sounds like something out of a gory Halloween movie, but they're not. Students at the University of Louisville Speed School of Engineering participate in hackathons, and they're here to tell us what they are and why we shouldn't be afraid of them. So with me are Sam Wosu and Shane Heminger. They are the students at the UofL Speed School of Engineering who are doing these hackathons. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here.
Morning.
Thanks for being here. All right, well, Sam, let's talk a little bit about if you can just tell me what a hackathon is.
All right, what is a hackathon? So we're not actually hacking into computers. No, we're not doing anything like that. A hackathon is where students come together to build cool stuff. So we take existing technologies and our personal experience and make a new product. So, for example, me and a group of students went up to Michigan a while ago to make Step, a smart shoe. So pretty much it was the step tracker you had on your feet, so it's more accurate than a Fitbit, but you also track your balance. So stuff like that is what comes out of hackathons.
So you're not trying to hack into IBM's computers or anything like that?
No.
When you talk about these hackathons, and you said you were in Michigan, is this a competition?
Yes.
Or is this, okay, well, explain how you compete with others.
All right. So at a hackathon, you can either go up by yourself or with a team up to 4. So each team are making a project. So at the end of the hackathon, after 24 or 36 hours, however long the hackathon is, you present your project during the expo, and judges come around to look at your project. And then after the first stage is judging, then comes the secondary stage is judging, where the actual tougher judges come around to judge your projects.
So they're like the first round of judges ranks maybe the top 10 projects or whatever. Then the real hard judges, the ones that are on TV, like on Star Search or something, they come on and they judge next, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So and then what happens? I mean, do you have 4 teams from University of Louisville? Team 1, Team 2, Team 3, Team 4, and then they say the grand prize winner is Louisville number 1, or is it an individual like Sam? Sam West, how's that work?
No, it's the team wins it. So whoever gets the top hack or top 3 usually, they each win a prize. I know at up in Michigan, the top winners got medals and a choice between new Dell laptops, a Kinect, and some other cool thing like that.
Okay. And Shane, how good is the Speed School of Engineering and its students at these hackathons? Are we really good or just mildly good?
Some of us are. Some of the people who go are great. If we had more people going, I'm sure we'd have even more that were great. But we don't have a huge community right now. We're working on it.
And the hackathons that you go to, are they attended by students at like Michigan and some of the great engineering schools in the country, or who's there?
Yeah,
Everyone from across the country, everyone's allowed to go. There are even people from Canada attending these hackathons too.
In fact, there's actually a student hackathon league called Major League Hacking.
There's a league?
Yeah,
Really?
There's actually a league, a season every year, every semester. So there's a fall season and a spring season. And in fact, the past 2 years, I think, University of Waterloo has won 3 of the 4 seasons.
Oh, yeah.
University of Waterloo from England?
From
From
Canada.
Canada. Okay. Well, there's
Northern Canada. But, I mean, you see up there in the top 5 are MIT and Purdue as well, and you see Michigan, and you see a couple of others too.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you all have seen made? What are some of the projects you two have seen done at these hackathons that you said, man, that's an awesome idea. I could sell that baby.
Oh man, I saw it as a vectorized program.
A what?
Vector programs. Let's say you're in image processing. Vector images are what usually use like scale and resize it very nicely.
Okay.
So someone made this iOS app to make that process a whole lot simple. And the way to present it and how nice and clean it looked is like, that's a product right there. That could be sold really easily.
Okay. Is there anything you've seen, Shane, that you found really interesting?
One of the most marketable projects I ever saw was a project called I don't remember what it was called actually, but there was an armband they used that goes on your arm. It reads your motions of your hands. And they mount a phone on the back of their helmet, and it actually flashes lights based on the hand signals.
That's kind of cool.
Yep.
All right. We're talking with Sam Wosu and Shane Heminger from the Speed School of Engineering. We're talking about hackathons. And the Speed School of Engineering hosts its own hackathon. Tell us a little bit about that.
All right, so Derby Hacks, which is the name of our hackathon, is going to be an event that we're going to put on April 9th to 10th. So essentially, we're going to invite a whole bunch of students, 250 to 300, and then we're just going to host it here. It'll be 24 hours, so you arrive in the morning and you stay overnight and then complete hacking and then judge.
And Sam, I told you a little bit just before we started that I had talked to a couple of your professors, Adrian Loff and Roman Yampolsky, a couple of times, and they set up, as I understand it, and you can explain it probably better than I can, they set up these teams, this competition. They set up like a blue team and a red team, where one team is in charge of figuring out how to set up firewalls, et cetera, for a computer system, where the other team is supposed to go out and hack into it.
Right.
Is that right? So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we actually had a competition last weekend for that called CCDC, where me and a group of students were set up a network and we had to protect it from the red team. So essentially, we have a network. Everyone's on a different box. You have a Linux box, Windows box, running different services like email or like e-commerce. And your job is just to keep these sites up. And during the course of the event, you'll be getting index saying, okay, I need you to set this up, or I need you to check for this. You have to complete those index while keeping all your services up to get the most points.
Okay.
So the idea behind this is you're actually simulating a corporate network. So like you have people are sending you index as the CIO, as the IT director, and they're saying you need to set this up on the network. You need to set this up on the network. All while you have to keep all these things that make this company run available to the public.
So you have to plug the holes, if there are any, fix them, if there are any, and come up with a system that is foolproof. So Sam, your buddy over here, can't hack into the Shane Company. Oh, I shouldn't say Shane Company. That's a real company. The Shane Heminger Company, and steal all your data. Is that essentially it?
That's exactly right.
Okay. So is that what you want to do when you guys get out in the real world?
That's one of the possibilities that I wanted to do, but I'm interested in a lot of things in my field, so I feel like there's...
You haven't quite figured out exactly what you want.
Yeah.
What year are you, Sam?
I am a senior.
Well, you got to figure it out, man. You're getting close. All right, Shane, how about you?
I'm a junior. I just do this for fun. I mean, I love doing computers and whatnot, but that's not what I want to do for my life. I'm going to go and do neurology.
Neurology, really? So you want to go to medical school?
No.
No, you
do
do
not
not
want to be a doctor.
You do not want to be a doctor. You just want to be a neurologist. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, very good. All right. Well, gentlemen, good luck with the hackathon that's coming up at the Speed School, and I appreciate you being on the show today. Jerry Ramirez is a soccer player at the University of Louisville. He is a senior, but he is so much more than that. He's active on campus and in the community, and I want to have him on the program as an example of what our student athletes are doing off the field and in the classroom, as well as what they're doing on the field. Welcome, Jerry.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Glad you're
Appreciate
here.
it.
Glad you're here. All right. Now, the first thing I got to ask is, since you've got a little bit of accent, where are you from? Where were you born?
So I'm originally from Chihuahua, Mexico. That's in the north part of Mexico, really close to the border, really close to Texas.
Okay. And how'd you get to the University of Louisville?
Well, I moved with my uncle to Texas, to Houston, Texas. So I finished my high school there, and then I played soccer there, club soccer, and then I got recruited by Coach Ken. So I decided to come here.
So that's why you're at the University of Louisville, huh?
That's right, yeah.
How hard was it to leave Mexico for the United States and go live with your uncle to play soccer, basically, wasn't it?
It was really hard, to be honest. Just leaving the family it was tough, especially my dad. I'm very close with him. So just, taking that step of going outside of your comfort zone into another country, it was tough. But I'm definitely blessed because living with my uncle, it was amazing. It was a great experience, and also coming to the Ville as well. It's been awesome.
Okay, so you're a senior this year, but you have a year of eligibility left, right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay, so are you considered a senior soccer player? Or are you considered a junior soccer player? Or I guess you're going to play as a graduate student. How's that going to work?
Yes. So my goal is to get into the MBA program here at the business school, and also to play my last year of eligibility as a redshirt senior graduate student.
And what position do you play?
I'm a defender.
You're a defender.
Yes. So
Have you enjoyed the time with Ken Lola?
I have. Yeah, he's a great coach, great influence in my life, and very thankful for everything he's done for me.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit. Maybe we can talk about athletic exploits and the soccer team here in just a minute. But I really want to talk about you because when I called over to the athletic department, said, "Hey, I'd like to have a few athletes on that are more than just athletes, that are great students or active in the community, active on campus." The first name that was mentioned to me was Jerry Ramirez. Said, "What a great guy you are." So take the compliments when you can get them from the folks in the athletic department. They speak very highly of you. So talk a little bit about your campus experience and what you've done on campus off the soccer pitch since you've been at UofL.
Well, first of all, Mark, you just have to say that I'm very thankful, for the opportunities, because when I came here, my main focus was on soccer. I will be honest, but then the opportunities came up, and I remember Daniel Keller. He was a senior. He was a junior here when I was a freshman, and he's the one kind of like that got me involved into everything that I'm doing right now. And he got me plugged into SAC, the Student Advisory Committee at UofL. And then through that organization, and then to other organizations like LIFE, Organization for International Students, just different organizations that exist within the athletic department. Then with those opportunities, kind of like I started to get involved in community service, in things like that. And to be honest, at first I wasn't looking for that, but it kind of came to me. So it was a great experience. We've been working with Churchill School that is really close to our new stadium, and that's been an awesome experience. Coach Lola, he hosts the JT and Friends camp, which is really, really touching experience in the summer. And also we've worked with Americana. It's a center that...
a community center, down in South Louisville.
That's right, yeah, for sons and daughters of refugees. So those are some of the things that I've been able to do, but everything is thanks to the opportunities that were put for me by the people that work for the athletic department.
And the Churchill School, for those who don't know, actually some people may park there in the Churchill School parking lot when they go to football games. It's right near, as you said, right near the soccer stadium. But as I understand it, those are children with some sort of disability, correct? That you go work with, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. They have very special needs.
And so, what do you do there? What if you volunteered there? What have you done?
Well, the first thing that we did is that we hosted kind of like a 2-hour session with them, basically just introducing them to the game of soccer. And we had like different stations that we run through, like shooting, like dribbling, passing. And we pretty much just taught them what soccer was. But obviously, it's a challenge for them. But we wanted to celebrate with them what they can do and not what they cannot do. So we just, everything that they did right, we just celebrate as if they've, won the championship, just to, make them feel that they're important and that they matter.
We're talking with Jerry Ramirez, who's a soccer player at the University of Louisville, but also does a lot of other stuff on campus and out in the community as well. What are some of the things that you have learned, you think, from doing this community service and from doing things outside the classroom and outside the soccer field?
I guess the main thing is just that when you give out like that, maybe at first you don't, because you have so many goals that you want to accomplish, maybe that's not your first goal. But when you do it, even though you don't feel like it, you end up being more blessed than not doing it. You know what I mean? So just everything that you give up comes back to you. It sounds selfish, but it does. So it's just been a blessing. Just to see the smile of the kids. They have very, very special needs. But whenever you can get like a little smile out of their faces, it just makes your day, and you feel you with joy because you know that you've been a difference for the lives of those kids.
And we should point out that you are not the only athlete on the University of Louisville's campus who's doing this kind of thing. As I recall, there's a ranking of schools and the number of community service hours that their student athletes put in, and U of L is number 2 in the country in the number of community service hours put forward by the student athletes. So it's not just it's not just you, it's not just Jerry Ramirez. It's across the spectrum of sports at U of L, correct?
That's so correct. That's so right. Especially the women's sports. Want to give a huge shout out to the women, because if you see the hours that they put forth in community service, is just amazing. Like the field hockey team, they're in the lead right now in our athletic department with community service hours, and they've been great. They do something almost every day. That's mind blowing. That means that one of their student athletes is getting out and taking time off their schedule, of their study, of their practice to give back, which is amazing to me and an example to follow.
What's your major?
I'm a finance major.
Also, that's why you're going the MBA program.
That's right.
You're into business. And what's your grade point, if I dare ask? How's your GPA? How you doing in the classroom?
Well, so far, Mark, I have a 4.0 so far.
Get out of here. Do
Yes.
you really?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
Congratulations. That is awesome. How have you managed to keep a 4.0 average playing soccer and doing all this other stuff on campus and off campus?
I mean, to be honest, it comes down to, time management. It's a lot of that, but again, it's great the resources that we have as student athletes. Many things we don't have to worry about, like printing, like having computers, like stuff like that. Just all the resources that are put forth for us just make it so much easier to do our work. But obviously, it takes a lot of time management and just discipline. And again, my coach, Ken Lola, he's been a huge influence to my life and my dad, my family, to tell me those principles of discipline and all that good stuff that helps you along the road.
Right, and Ken Lola is well known as kind of a father figure for the soccer players and getting soccer players involved. And was it a couple of years ago you went down, what was it, Honduras or someplace? Where was it the soccer team went?
We went to Spain.
Spain, okay. I thought it was in Central America someplace. So you went.
They did go to Central America, but that was a year before
before you got
here.
there?
So
Okay, yeah. I just remember hearing about that trip and how.
I think they went to Brazil.
You may be right, and how eye-opening that was for the student athletes and what a good time that was. So, well, let's talk a little bit about, we can go into a little bit of athletics here for a second. How's the soccer team looking coming up next year?
It's looking great, and I'm very hopeful for next season and confident that we'll be a better team than last year. I think we had some challenges last year.
Yeah, it was. You had a little bit of a disappointing season for UofL, not for most people, but for UofL, it was a little disappointing, wasn't it?
It was, and we got to be honest and just kind of learn from it, and we're trying to get the culture back because this always been a great culture of sacrifice, of good work, of a great team effort, so that we're trying to bring that back to the team, and I think we're in the right path because we have the right leaders to do that, and I'm very confident that moving forward we're going to be in a good position.
Top 10?
Yeah, I think we have in us, what is necessary to be at that level. Yes,
right.
Definitely.
All right, well, as we wrap up here, Jerry, what would you like to tell people about your experience at the University of Louisville?
I would just tell them that it's been a blessing to be here. I'm very thankful for the athletic department and everything, all the resources they provide, and all the facilities athletically, and not only on the field, but outside of the field, because it's one thing to come and play soccer, but it's another thing to get other things out of it, like all the community service and all the leadership that you learn. And yesterday we had a speaker come and speak to us, Mark Madison, and opportunities like that is life-changing for a lot of athletes. And I know two friends of mine that they were their lives just changed just with that talk. So having those things, in place is just so good. And thank you for all the donors and all the people that give back to the athletic program and to the university, because it goes a long way.
All right, Jerry Ramirez, thank you so much for being on the program. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening to UofL Today with Mark Hebert, and Go Cards.